Welcome all debt-free millionaires, or at least those that want to become in the future. Because if you're a debt-free millionaire already, then you already know all the tax tricks and teachings that I'm teaching right now. But if you're not and you want to be debt-free or a millionaire or a debt-free millionaire, so both together, then stick around. This is the place to be. My name is Zach Edwards. I am a normal person who's gone through all these different steps to become debt-free and nearly millionaire, but I'm not there yet. In this whole step process, we're going to be there together, and we're going to walk you through every step. This is every lesson that I've learned to get me to that point where I'm almost there and yet not there yet. So with me, you're going to be able to be there as well. Today, we're going to be talking about something that's very important, and this is actually what's happening. This is a current event right now that is very big in the news today, and that is the jobs situation. So the U.S. government right now wants to tell you that the job situation is great. They're still growing jobs all the time. Well, they're not talking about all the jobs that they're losing. If you look at any of the large tech companies in the last year, most of the large tech companies have dropped 1,000 to 10,000 to 20,000 of their employees. Yeah, huge swaths of their employees. Every single industry has dropped a certain amount of their people because of one, they become more efficient with technology and such, but also the fact that there's the price of a worker, the wages are going up. When the wages go up, more companies are going to have to spend more money to keep their company going. So they're going to have to figure out ways of making it easier for them to keep the company going, but without as many employees. A lot of times that becomes making it more efficient, which is basically sometimes they have to lay people off or find new positions for them. But today we're not going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about you and what you want to do. So say you're in a job that's nice and secure. Okay. Now, did you know that everyone in America is able to quit their job and move to another position? Okay. That might seem very simple, and you think that everyone would know that, but a lot of them don't. And a lot of them actually need permission. They feel in their mind they have to have permission. Some of them feel overwhelmed when it comes to the thought of leaving the job that they have. Well, the problem is that in the United States, you have so much freedom that you have the freedom to pick up from your job and leave. But here's the big thing. This is the big but here. Please do not leave your job unless you have another job in its place already set up. Because sometimes you're not going to be able to find a job right away. If you have a job that's fair, that's good for you, and yet you're dissatisfied, there's some steps that you can take before leaving that job. And we're going to walk you through each of the steps as we get to each of them. But first, one thing to know is that millennials today, so these are everyone from like 1980 on, which you wouldn't think that those were millennials, but they actually are. So 1980, born in 1980 or more recent, are considered millennials. So the idea basically came out that those who were born in the 1990s or the 2000s are basically becoming more lazy. They're leaving their jobs because they're less satisfied with their jobs, those type of things. Well, there is some truth in it, but it's not all there. So let's go through all these different steps. Here's one thing to know. Only 29% of millennials feel engaged at their workplace. That's big. For anyone that runs a company, if you have only 29% of your employees that actually feel engaged in the workforce, you may want to figure things out. Did you know that 50% of them are dissatisfied with their work? And this is according to the Gallup poll. Now, if the Gallup poll is finding out that there's that much dissatisfaction in regular companies, then there's got to be something that you can do as an employer to figure that out. There are some times that, especially with the culture and the change in our youth, that they're going to be dissatisfied with anything that they use, or any job that they take, except for ones that are like tailored to them. But the problem is not every job can be tailored to them. We still have certain things that these people are going to have to work into and live it the way that they live it. But there are ways as employers to make it easier for them to enjoy that life. Now, again, we're not talking about them. We're talking about you. Everyone in America has the ability to quit their job. And if you're dissatisfied with your job, here are some steps to take before quitting your job. So first off, this all has to do with you. Are you satisfied? Let's go through a few questions. Okay. What is about the old or current job that you do not like? Think about this. What is it that's not engaging you? What is it that really has you down? So much that you would actually quit your job. Think about it for a minute. Or pick up the book and you can slowly go through each of these questions. Maybe pause the podcast and think about it. Because there's another question. This one's going to be different. And you need to think of all of these questions. Specifically, if you're disengaged with your work, first think of why in the current job that you have, current position, why is that not satisfying you? The second thing is, are you qualified for another position in the same company maybe? Think about that. What would it take you to be qualified for another position? Here's just spitballing this, but you can always ask. You can ask your supervisor and say, okay, this is where I'm at. What do I need to do in order to get your position or another person's position? How do I get up in the hierarchy and getting a raise and so on and so forth? If I'm dissatisfied, I want to be able to figure out how I can be satisfied in the company that I'm already at, because I already have this good sense of part of the company, and the company wants to keep me here. So what is it that they can do? What is it that I can do to keep going? Okay, the next one is the work that dissatisfies or disengages, or is it you? Is it the work, or is it something else? Is it the company culture? Is it the environment? Is it remote working is not working for you? What is it that makes you dissatisfied with what you're doing? That's the question number 3. Question number 4, will you feel joy in the next position? That's a big one, because you might be dissatisfied now, but you go jump over to another job that you've never worked before, or something that you have done and it's the same job, or so forth. You might not have the best feelings about the next one. You might be disengaged. You might be dissatisfied. So you got to figure out what it is in your life, what it is in your mind that's making it so you're dissatisfied. Question number 5. What is it that you want to do? Are you qualified for what you do? Or what you want to do? How are you going to figure that out? What is it that you want to do? Now, just remember this big thing, and I'm going to mention this a few times in this. If you try to go and work with your hobby, all of a sudden, if your job, which is now your hobby, that was your hobby, now it's your job, if that becomes dissatisfied, you just lost your hobby, because you won't want to do that hobby after it dissatisfies you. So you may not actually want to jump into a job that has to do with your hobby. You might want to keep that completely separate. That's your detachment tool. When you leave work, what do? Do you go do your hobby? If you go do your hobby, is that what allows you to detach from the world and to feel more satisfied in life? You don't want to get rid of that. You do not want to get to the point where you don't want to do your hobby anymore, because that'll hurt you more than it'll help you. Okay, next question. Number 6. Would you be more satisfied if you had a side gig just to mix things up? Is that enough that it will actually make you satisfied with life, which will make me happier with what I'm doing? Now, it could be with something that you already do. And then you have to find out if you have non-compete. Now, non-competes, when you leave your job, is one thing, but sometimes you can't compete. You can't work for a competitor at the same time that you're working for a company that you're at, because you're going to be sharing tactics and tricks and things that you've learned from the first company with the second company. So just think about that. What is it? What will you be satisfied with in the future? This is the 8th question. Oh, sorry, this is going to be the 7th question. I'm going to go back to the actual 7th is now going to be moved to the 8th. And this is an important one. What will satisfy you with something in the future? How will you become happy if you're unhappy? So a lot of this happens right here. Between this year and this year. Where is that information sending you? Is it that you're being unsatisfied because of something that's more ingrained in you? Or is it your work and what's going on there? Because this is the last one. Is it about the money that you make or lack thereof? If it's the money will only get you so far. You might get a job that's more paying, but if you're not satisfied with the work that you're going to be doing, you're still going to get that back to the exact same place that you were before. And you will not be satisfied with it because the money only gets you so far. Now, if you are, say you're not making enough money to survive, that's a great driving factor. So go get another job that satisfies that. But also be aware that, hey, you're still going to be dissatisfied jumping into the next job because you haven't figured out what's in your mind that you need to be able to fix. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing you have to figure out is what's disengaging you. What's making you dissatisfied? What is inside of you and why do you feel this way? Okay, so let's look into, okay, you figured these things out. You still want a new job. Here you go. Let's go to the next step. First off, these are a lot of the lists I'm going to give you this today. And there's a lot of them. So again, get the book. It's a lot easier. But the first one, what would you love to do at work? What is your number one thing that would be the greatest thing ever that you could do? Remember, again, I'm going to say this again. If you put your hobby as your job, you become dissatisfied with your job, you're going to lose your hobby. Your hobby will no longer be the place to detach from the world. So be careful that don't pick a hobby for your job. Keep your hobby as a weapon against the monotony of life. Second, are there positions out there that can satisfy your needs and your wants? So go on a job search. Go online and look for jobs that might be in this field. Don't interview for them yet. Do not ask for them yet. This is, again, a fact-finding mission right now. Okay. Did you find one? So go online, check it out. See if there's even jobs out there. There may not be jobs out there that would satisfy your dissatisfaction. Maybe there are. So what you can do, instead of going in for an interview saying, I want to get this job, go in and ask some of the people that actually work there. If it's for a grocery store, or if it's for an art studio, or if it's for a, if you go out and do art for other people, graphic designer, social media, go talk to some people that actually do that. Ask for an interview. A lot of people are willing to give you interviews if you come to them saying, hey, I need help. I'm in this situation. Just be personal with them. Be honest with them. Because they want to be able to help you. A lot of people, they just want to help. Some people do not, but a lot of people do. So if you found this job that you think is the dream job, find out the pros and cons of this job. It might not be all that you think it's cracked up to be. It might actually be worse. It might actually be better. You don't know until you go ask for it. But also remember that when you're interviewing them, ask them about the economy. What happens when the economy goes down? What happens when the economy goes up? Ask them actual questions that you're learning in this course to find out what is it that might make your job in jeopardy if you switch over to this other job. Because you might have a solid job currently, and your next job, because you're dissatisfied, is going to be a completely volatile one that you don't even know if you're going to have the job the next week. So be careful, interview, get to know people that are in the job, but not your boss or not your future boss. Ask around. Especially, here's the great thing. If you go in for an interview and you've already interviewed all these people about this position and you still want to do it, you can actually bring that to the interview. Tell me, tell me one person that you know of that's actually done that. It's very rare to find someone that's done all the preliminary inspections on this business before actually applying for it. If you are that driven, then the company actually knows that you're driven enough to be part of the environment, be part of this company. They actually will want you because you've done all the background. You know what's going on. You know the pros and the cons of being part of this company. So stay tuned for that. Make sure that you know about that information, about that job before you go out and try to take it. Again, fact finding. You're just trying to find out information about this. Next, the other employees for that company might actually enjoy it, but are you even qualified for it? What is required to fulfill this job? And with that question comes the fifth one, is are you willing to go back to school to learn those things? Sometimes they'll give on-the-job training. Sometimes they don't want to hire you unless you actually have experience or know about it or have the equivalent, which would be in school. So some companies like blank slates. But even if they like blank slates, as in you're trained, but you're not trained on a specific company's ways, they still want you to have experience in that line or the education equivalent for that line of work. So just think that over. Okay. But again, do not quit your job right now. This is fact finding. You want to know everything about these jobs. And then you don't even want to jump ship until you have another job online. So you want to be able to have a job that you can jump right into. So here are, when you're looking for a job, try taking these steps first. Okay, list number 3. Look to see if there are jobs that will satisfy your needs. Now you've already done this. So in the fact-finding mission of the second task, you actually went in and found jobs that are already available and you started looking at it. So you also did number 2, which is talking to the employees that work there. You want the pros and cons. But this is where you come to the third part. If you found the perfect job, you really want this job. The biggest thing is that most likely, just putting this out there, if it's something new, you're not qualified for this. So you're going to have to figure out what you need to do to qualify for that. And the great way of doing that is talking to the employees. Talk to the employees. Don't talk to the employers yet. If this is what you want to do, find out from the employees what you need to learn in order to take up this position. Because maybe you could start up a side gig to get this experience. Maybe you come back to school. Do it in the evenings after work. But keep your job, again, keep your job. Do not lose it before saying, oh, I'm going to get this job. Until you actually have a signed form in your hand and a letter of intent for them to hire, you do not have a job. Okay, one more thing. Before going too far with searching, ask the employer. Now, this is where you actually go in and talk to the employer. After you've already talked to the employees, you want to be able to ask them all these same questions. What is it like to work for the company? What are the pros and cons? I mean, you can actually ask this, especially if you're not going in for an interview. And if there's no interview ready for you, you want to ask this company. What you're doing is you're setting up a ground game. You want them to know that you're ready to jump in if things are right. So you're going to ask questions, and they're going to want to promote their company and tell you what the great things about it. Again, very biased, but they want to tell you the great things about it because they do want people that are passionate to come to work for them, because at some point they're going to have to let someone go or someone's going to leave their company. So ask the employers at this point. Do not ask for a job interview yet, because you're still working for another company and you're just doing fact finding. But remember that here's another thing. Well, I'm going to get to this afterwards. So go through and do all these fact finding. The first 3 lists were all about fact finding. Now, if you want to go into getting a new job before you go into the interview, before you even apply for a job, this is why I told you to hold off. This is the next list. The next list is to create a rock solid resume. Now, a resume can be easily flawed, and there are probably 90% of resumes that go in are flawed in some way. Now, in the book, there's a list of them, and there's a long list of different things to look for in your resume, and they will help you with each step. I'm going to start off just giving you the basics and what is very important. So first off, no company has the time to read multiple pages of a resume. So try to keep it to 1 page. Now, per se, if like my brother, I read through his resume and I felt really dumb. I felt really unqualified for any job because he had so many qualifications. And this actually came because he was part of the military. He worked for military for 20 years, retired, and now he's working on for another company, and he'll retire from there. So he'll actually have 2 pensions at the end. But when he left the military, again, after 20 years, He had so much experience, so many certifications, so many awards. He could not fit all those on one page. So there is a chance where you might not be able to fit everything on one page. And you might have to go on to the next page. But you better make that first page the most impressive thing, because your second page, they won't even look at the second page if that first page is not impressive. So that's just an easy start. It is not a bad thing to use a template. Actually, most employers, when they're looking at all of these, they want to know exactly where your objective is, where your education is, where your work experience is. All these things are. They want to know exactly, boom, 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 boom. They want to know where they are because they don't want to have to search through the whole resume just to find it, especially if it's on multiple pages, which is why I say keep it on one page. Have it highlighted or not highlighted, bolden, saying work experience, education, so on and so forth. You want to make sure it pops out. So using a template is not a bad thing because the templates have it down to a science. They've done the studies on how they're supposed to look. So a template is a great way of going. Now, recently, it used to be that you could actually get like pink paper or put perfume on it. Companies are very turned off by these extra little things. They do not want the pink paper. They don't want rainbow paper. They don't want red paper. They don't want any kind of multicolored paper. They want white paper. They actually want them in normal form. Because when there's too many extras, too many things to take their mind off of what they're reading, it frustrates them. And they will not read your resume. So keep it normal. Keep it standard. Keep it to a template. Keep it one page. Okay, next one. Keep it simple. So, like I said, keep it uniform. Keep it simple. Keep it uniform. I'm not going to go too much into it because that should explain itself. But at the same time of being simple and uniform, you also want to stand out. Find ways of making yourself stand out. I actually have a picture on my resume. Not many resumes have a picture. They can actually see who they're talking to or who they would be talking to while reading this resume. So they know who I am. They become familiar with me when they're reading through. Put your social media in there. But if you're going to put your social media on there, you better take off the things that might be controversial. Because if you have controversial stuff in there, they're not going to hire you. If you have controversial stuff and you say, well, if they're not going to hire me, great, that's fine with me. I'll find a company that is satisfied with me. Well, the problem is that every company knows that if you are an activist, you will most likely become an activist in their company. For the negative, they want the activist positive, but you will probably become an activist negative in your company, and so might not hire you. Just putting this out there, it's up to you. Sometimes it stands out. We'll go into that a little bit later, or we won't because there's, again, so many things on this list inside the workbook. Okay, the next one is, let's say, make your contact information prominent. They want to know who you're talking to. If everything is the same font, they're not going to be able to see anything. You want things to stand out. Again, work experience, bold. Education, bold. Name, big letters. Not like huge, but like almost double the size of all the rest of the letters. Because they want to know, oh, it's Zach Edwards. Okay, this one's Zach Edwards. This one's Tom Jones. This one's, so on and so forth. It could be any name that's on there. You want to be able to have them be able to see it every time they pick up that resume. That should be the thing that they see every time. So when they come talk to you, there's like Zach Edwards. Oh, I know your resume. Yeah, I know your resume. Tom Sconyers. Oh, I know your resume. All these different people, that's what they want to see. Okay, another one. Use active language. Like I accomplished. But actually, you don't want to say I. It's to say accomplished or achieved or earned. These are all words that they want to. So when I'm going to go over really briefly the objective. This is the little summary at the top. If it's for a new field you're jumping into, they want to know your objective. Keep it very short, 2 lines. Do not make it a summary of everything below, because they're going to read everything below if they like your objective. Do not use the words I or me. Use achieved such and such, 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 such. You want to be able to make it so that you're not focusing on it. Oh, it's all about me. Because it's not about you. This resume is not about you. It's about the company. And yeah, you might say, well, the company should stop thinking about itself all the time. Well, actually, the person that's reading it is not the company. The person that's reading it works for the company and they want the best thing for the company. So they actually want to know a resume of anybody, any person, does not matter the background, does not matter the skin color or anything. They want to know somebody that is actually going to benefit the company. So, just saying, it's not about you, it's about the company. You actually want to write this resume as if it was for the company. And you actually want to make them unique. Now, it might be hard to focus on creating resumes for each company that you're going to apply to. So what you can do is make one generic one. And then if there's a company you really want to start working for, that's the one you make unique. That's the one that you add on things that you know because you've interviewed the employees, things that they're looking for. If they're looking for it, put it in the resume, specific to that company. There might be companies though, again, you apply for 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, or even 100 companies. You don't want to customize each one of those. So make sure that you are working on that. Now, another thing that they want to see is your job history. They do not want to know if you are a great knitter or a survivalist. Has nothing to do with most jobs that you're going to work for. Now, if you're going to work for a survival company, okay, maybe those are relevant. But your job history should match why they would want to hire you. Again, it's not about you, it's about the company. So if you managed $1 million worth of product, boom, every retailer wants to see that. Every large company wants to see that. If you manage millions of dollars worth of contracts, boom, they want to see that. If you saved time, boom, they want to see that. They want to see something in those bullet points. So every job, you should list the job, list your position, list how long you were there. Underneath, bullet points. Give bullet points, very short bullet points, to show what you did for that company. Again, it's not about you. It's about that company, the next company. You want them to see that you are thinking about them based on what you did in the past. They want to know that you're a good fit. And if you don't show it in your work experience, they will not hire you. Almost definitely, they will not hire you if you don't have the education for it or if you don't have the work experience. You are worthless to that company. So putting in a resume for a company that you're not fulfilling those two needs, it's worthless. You might as well pack up your resume and go home. Okay, education. You want to be able to put in your education, your information on there. Now, if you're talking about high school or high school or college, you do want to show your GPA only if it's a good GPA. Otherwise, leave it off. It is not needed if it's a bad GPA. I brought in my GPA. I worked very hard for my GPA. And my employer said, I've never seen a resume with GPA on here. But since they're so high, that's a good thing. But I've never seen anybody put their GPA on a resume. Okay, so I was a little nervous at that. He said, again, no, it's not a bad thing. I was actually interviewing inside the company. But I put my GPA because it was impressive. At least to me it was. And so I put that there. Most people do not put GPAs on their resume because it's not necessary. And if it's not anything near a 4.0, it's not needed. If you bring it to a lower manager, they might want to see it. If you're bringing it to the company owner, most likely they don't want to see it, because if they're looking at it, they're looking for executive level. And if it's executive level, they don't care about your GPA. It's not needed. But your education is. They want to see where you went to, what you studied, what background you have. It's like just like your work experience, you want to be able to tailor it to the company you want to go work for. Also on the resume, you can put in skills. These are certain certifications I have. These are skills I have. These are clubs I'm part of. Make it very small. That is a very small portion. You just want to highlight the ones that are relevant to that company. If I was an Eagle Scout, a lot of them want to hear that because they want to see that you have relevant skills and also leadership qualities. And Boy Scouts was based on leadership. It's less now, but that's what it was based on. List of actual skills that you have, ones that are not in your work experience, but things that you do have skills in, such as side jobs. Again, if a job that you had in the past is not relevant to the company you're going to go work for, remove it, eliminate it. It is not needed. In here, there's also a lot of tips. I mean, I have a ton of tips in here of how to fill in the gaps. Temporary work that you want to have here, references, all these different things. You do not want to put your references on the resume, but you do want to say available upon request. That means if they like you enough, they're going to call on you to provide you references available upon request. They're going to ask you for those resumes or those references, which means they already like you. And if they already like you, boom, you got that. And you want to give them the best references ever. And again, you got to go into this because you're actually going to see what you can do. What you can do more than I'm introducing to on this podcast. Because again, there's a lot of information on it here. All right. So I want to go through a few side gigs. I know I'm over 30 minutes. We're going to get to this because it's so important. Okay, side gigs. Let's talk about one thing that you can do instead of changing your job. Side gigs. Okay, so there are different side gigs you can go for. Okay, this is driving and delivery hustle jobs. Oops. Here we go. There's Lyft, Uber. Those are ones that everyone knows. DoorDash, Instacart, Uber Eats. Okay, so you got Uber that drives people, and you have Uber Eats. Grubhub. I actually used to work for Grubhub for a time. Caviar is one that people know, and there's a lot of these other small ones. See, I didn't even know about Amazon Flex. You can actually get a side gig working Amazon Flex, bringing out Amazon packages to other people's house. They'll pay you to deliver it for them, so they don't have to hire you except as a contractor. Ha! Who knew that was there? I didn't. And I do this for a living. So, okay. Let's see. Moving and labor. Okay. So in here, you can do different, you can move people. There are actual, let's see, Buddy Truck. There are actual moving companies that use your labor to move their stuff. They don't hire you on full time. They hire you as a contractor, which is great if you already have a full time, and then you can actually set your own hours. According to that company, you're gonna have to check with each company. Each company's policy is different. But here they say, you're a mechanic. If you're a mechanic on the side, $40 to $50 an hour. Dang, I wish I was a mechanic. My mom always told me I should be a plumber. And there are some of these for plumbers. $21 with bellhops. Let's see, $62 an hour. Put your truck or cargo van to work helping people move, and up to $62 an hour. Wow, that's pretty good. Though you have to provide your own moving van. Buddy Truck, $40 an hour. So that's great. What other kinds do we have? Let's go to the next one. Surveying and customer feedback. Who knew that this side gig was here? I didn't know about any of these companies. These are not usual ones that people talk about. There's a lot of testing companies where you go by door to door or calling people and you get paid for it on an hourly basis. See, let's see, up to average of $140 an hour. An hour. Let's see. I want to read this more. Let's zoom up in this one. Okay. It's by far the best paying online survey outfit I've found. The surveys usually take the shape of one-on-one interviews, either in person or over the phone, video chat, and they pay an average of $140 an hour. Oh. Anyone got a phone or want to go online? I want to check this out. Respondent. That's great. Look at these other ones. This one's $50 to $100 an hour. User interviews, $50 an hour. These look like ones that everyone needs to be able to look into. $10 an hour, $10 an hour, maybe not so much. $8 an hour, But maybe the other ones are so hard to get into that you might want to start off in the smaller ones and then you can work your way up, much like you would with a regular job. Okay, so you got that one. Let's say you want to do caregiving as a side hustle. Okay, babysitting, Sitter City, that's a big one. Connect RNs, this is resident nurse. Let's see, Honor is elderly care. Care.com, this is, I think this is both. This is any kind of care. So just caregivers. Helper, WAG, this is for, okay, of course, pets, walking pets. Rover, also walking pets. If you're not living in a city, it's a little bit harder work because you have to travel a lot more to find these places. But those can actually be quite lucrative as well. Mystery shoppers. You ever thought of becoming a mystery shopper? Okay, $3 to $12 an hour or task. $3 to $12 a task. So yeah, and they're quick ones. Gig walk, all these ones. Random ones. Movie extra. Movie extras can earn up to $200 a day, but be prepared. The gig probably isn't as glamorous as you're imagining. Okay, I want to see what this is. Movie extra is most likely you being on the set or you moving things on the set. A lot of these Hollywood companies don't have the money now because theater attendance has gone down so much and movies have not been making as much as they should have been in the past. So yeah, you might start working for them, but it might not be that glamorous. And there's all these other ones. Now, find them in the comments below. These are just images, but the actual articles will be in the comments below. Customer service, there's real estate. So I used to do Airbnb. I've never done Vrbo, but Airbnb, maybe about an extra $1,200 a month. And that was renting out a space in my house, which actually was a basement with a walkout basement. So, but that was a while ago, years ago. Make around $100 an hour. Okay, that's the title. Wow. Okay. Notaries. Oh, there you go. Become a notary. Get $100 an hour for completing loan signing for new home buyers. This is one that most likely you have to travel to them to do it. So it is $100 an hour, but you have to drive to the location, which actually, again, might be lucrative for that reason. Okay. And here's some small things to know, and then we'll end this podcast. Okay. Which of these categories does your side hustle fall under? Online and social media. So 16% of those surveyed. Gig work, Uber, drivers. That's about 16% also, just a little less. Online shopping, 13%. How do you get paid for shopping? I mean, mystery shoppers, really? 13%? That's a lot of side gigs that do that. Freelancers. This is like Fiverr or Upwork. Selling crafts, Etsy. Fiverr has some of those, and some of those other craft companies. Market research, and we already went over that. That's 7%. Software and IT. Those guys get paid a lot because it's a needed ability, IT and programming and things like that. Or look at that, 18.6 is others. There's a lot of other kinds of moving, labor, those type of those. Those would probably be gig work. There are a lot of different side gigs. So last one, when do you typically work on your side gig? Weekends, only 18%. That actually surprises me. 33% evenings. That does not surprise me. Mornings, 28%. That's a little bit surprising. And afternoons, only 20%. See, lunchtime, dinner time, I think that would be here. Dinner time would be more of here. But lunchtime, there's actually a good amount of gigs going out. When I was doing Grubhub, I used to love working in the afternoon. I also did mornings because there wasn't many people trying to do breakfast takeout, like people driving for breakfast takeout. So I had it basically to myself. So these are just a few things to think about when it comes to becoming a debt-free millionaire. You can change your job or change up your job. You might want to actually think of changing up your job because at least the company that you're working for actually knows who you are and wants you to stay with them. They want to see what you can do in the sense of improving yourself so you can be ready for the next position. So think about all these things. Take it into your mind. See what you want to do. If you're dissatisfied with your work or you have other issues with the job that you're working for, find out right here what is the issue, and then find out about the next job that you could be working for because you might actually like it. As I said, talk to the employees. The employees are going to be honest with you, most of them. They're not going to try to sell you on it because some of them are just dissatisfied and they don't want to do it. They'll actually tell you that. Some of them will. You can usually tell if they're trying to talk you into something or if they're just trying to tell you the honest truth. So stay tuned for more as we go more into Debt-Free Millionaire. This was just about, should you stay with your regular job, get a side job, or leave it all together? I hope you can figure this out. And again, if you need to, come back to this podcast. Look at your job. Maybe you're not even in a job. When you get into a job, come back to this podcast episode and think it over. These are just some things that will help you. So thanks so much for joining me on this Debt Free Millionaire Day. And we'll talk to you later. Take care.